crime lords of New York. The neon lights of New York City flickered like a dying pulse in the early hours of a cold November morning in 1987. The streets of Hell's Kitchen were slick with rain, reflecting the garish glow of dive bars and all-night diners. In the shadows, where the law turned a blind eye, the city's underbelly thrived. This was the domain of the crime lords, men and women who ruled through fear, cunning, and blood. Among them, two names stood above the rest: Vincent, the Ghost, Malone, and Isabella, the Queen, Russo. Their rivalry was the stuff of legend, a brutal chess game played with knives, guns, and lives. Vincent Malone was a specter, a man who could walk into a room and make everyone forget he was ever there. Lean, with a face like a blade and eyes that seemed to see through walls, he built his empire on discretion. Smuggling, extortion, and high-stakes heists were his trade, and his crew, the Shadows, operated like a surgical team. No one crossed Vincent without disappearing, their body never found, their name erased from the city's memory. He didn't crave power for its own sake, he saw it as a means to an end, a way to keep the chaos of the streets at bay. But chaos was coming, and its name was Isabella Russo. Isabella was the opposite of Vincent in every way. Where he was a whisper, she was a scream. A statuesque woman with raven hair and a smile that could charm a snake, she ruled the Lower East Side with a velvet glove over an iron fist. Her empire was built on gambling dens, protection rackets, and a network of informants that stretched from the docks to City Hall. She was a master manipulator, her beauty a weapon as deadly as any gun. Her crew, the Russo syndicate, was loyal to a fault, bound by fear and adoration. They called her the Queen not out of irony, but because she ruled like one, absolute, untouchable, and unforgiving. The city had been divided between them for years, an uneasy truce holding the peace. But in the fall of '87, that truce shattered. It started with a shipment of uncut diamonds, smuggled from Antwerp and destined for Vincent's hands. The deal was clean, $10 million in stones, enough to fund his operations for a year. But the truck never made it to his warehouse. Instead, it was hijacked on the Brooklyn Bridge, the driver left bleeding out in the cab, and the diamonds vanished into the night. Word on the street pointed to Isabella. Vincent sat in his office, a nondescript room above a butcher shop in Hell's Kitchen, staring at a grainy photo of the hijacked truck. His second-in-command, a wiry man named Tommy Knives Callahan, paced the room, his blade flicking in and out of its sheath. "It's her, boss," Tommy said, his voice low. "Nobody else has the balls to pull this off. She's taunting you." Vincent didn't answer right away. He lit a cigarette, the smoke curling around his face like a ghost. "She wants a war," he said finally. "She'll get one." Across town, Isabella sipped champagne in her penthouse, the Manhattan skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her consigliere, a sharp-eyed woman named Maria Conti, laid out a map of the city, marked with Vincent's known safehouses. "He's coming for you," Maria warned. "The Ghost doesn't let a slight like this slide." Isabella laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Let him come. I've been waiting for this." The first shot in the war was fired 2 nights later. One of Isabella's gambling dens in Chinatown was hit, the guards gunned down, the cash and ledgers torched. The Shadows left their mark, a single black feather pinned to the door. Isabella retaliated the next day, her crew ambushing a Shadows weapons shipment in Red Hook. The docks ran red, and by morning, the papers screamed of a gang war tearing the city apart. The police, corrupt and overwhelmed, stayed out of it. The mayor, in Isabella's pocket, turned a blind eye. The streets became a battlefield, each side striking and counterstriking with surgical precision. Vincent's crew hit Isabella's drug runners in Harlem, Isabella's syndicate torched one of Vincent's warehouses in the Bronx. Bodies piled up, and fear gripped the city. Civilians whispered about the crime lords, their names spoken like curses. But Vincent and Isabella weren't just fighting for territory or pride. The diamonds were the key to something bigger, a deal with a mysterious buyer known only as the broker. Rumor had it the broker was a front for an international syndicate, one with enough power to make or break empires. The diamonds were their price of entry, a ticket to a seat at the global table. Whoever delivered them would control not just New York, but the entire East Coast. Vincent knew he couldn't outmuscle Isabella. Her syndicate was larger, her influence deeper. So he played to his strengths, misdirection and precision. He fed her false information through a double agent, a low-level thug named Frankie who'd been caught skimming from both sides. Frankie told Isabella's crew that the diamonds were stashed in a safe house in Queens, guarded by only a handful of shadows. It was a trap, and Isabella took the bait. Under cover of night, her best hitters stormed the safe house, expecting an easy score. Instead, they walked into an ambush. Vincent's crew was waiting, armed to the teeth. The firefight was brutal, leaving bodies on both sides, but the syndicate took the worst of it. By dawn, Isabella's top enforcer, a hulking man named Carlo, the Bull Moretti, was dead, his body slumped in the street. Isabella was livid. She'd underestimated Vincent, and it had cost her, but she wasn't out of moves. She turned to her network of informants, digging into Vincent's past. What she found was a ghost story. Vincent Malone wasn't his real name. He'd been born Vincenzo Morelli, a kid from Little Italy who'd vanished after his family was slaughtered in a mob hit 20 years ago. The revelation hit Isabella like a thunderbolt. Vincent wasn't just a rival, he was a survivor, driven by the same hunger for vengeance that fueled her own rise. She used this against him. Flyers appeared across Hell's Kitchen, outing Vincent's true identity, taunting him with his past. The shadows, loyal but superstitious, began to whisper. Was their leader losing his edge? Vincent felt the pressure mounting, his carefully constructed anonymity unraveling. He needed to end this, and fast. The turning point came on a rainy night in December. Isabella arranged a parley, a meeting at an abandoned pier on the Hudson. No weapons, no crews, just the two of them. Vincent agreed, though both knew the truce was a lie. They met under a flickering street lamp, rain soaking their clothes, the city a blur behind them. "You took my diamonds," Vincent said, his voice calm but deadly. "You left them vulnerable." Isabella shot back, her eyes gleaming. "This city doesn't belong to ghosts, it belongs to those who seize it." They circled each other, words sharp as knives, but beneath the bravado, there was something else, respect, maybe even admiration. They were two sides of the same coin, forged in the crucible of the city's cruelty. For a moment, it seemed they might find common ground. Then the shots rang out. A sniper, hidden in the shadows, fired at Isabella. She dove behind a crate, drawing a concealed blade. Vincent, unarmed as agreed, took cover as more shots followed. It wasn't his crew, someone else was playing the game. The broker, tired of waiting, had sent their own enforcers to clean house. Vincent and Isabella, enemies moments before, fought back to back, their survival instincts overriding their feud. They took down the attackers in a brutal, bloody clash, knives and fists against guns. When the last body fell, they stood panting, soaked in rain and blood, staring at each other. "We're being played," Vincent said, his voice hoarse. Isabella nodded. "The broker doesn't want a winner, they want us gone." They called a temporary truce, pooling their resources to track the broker. It took weeks, but Maria's informants came through. The broker was a front for a European syndicate, operating out of a penthouse in Midtown. The diamonds were there, along with enough evidence to burn both their empires to the ground. The final move was a heist, a joint operation between the shadows and the syndicate. It was a masterclass in crime, silent, precise, and deadly. They infiltrated the penthouse, cracked the safe, and retrieved the diamonds, along with files that exposed the broker's network. But as they prepared to leave, the broker's men descended. The firefight was chaos, a storm of bullets and screams. Vincent and Isabella fought side by side, their crews united for the first time. When the dust settled, the broker was dead, their empire in ruins. The diamonds were theirs, but the cost was high. Half their crews were gone, and the city was on edge. In the aftermath, Vincent and Isabella met one last time, on the same pier where it all began. The diamonds sat between them, glittering in the moonlight. "We could split them," Isabella said, her voice soft. "Rule the city together." Vincent shook his head. This city doesn't need another king or queen, it needs a ghost. He walked away, leaving the diamonds with her. By morning, Vincent Malone was gone, vanished into the shadows. Isabella kept the diamonds, but the city never felt the same. The war was over, but the scars remained, a reminder that in New York, even the victors paid a price. Years later, the streets still whispered their names, the ghost and the queen, the crime lords who burned bright and fierce, their legend etched into the city's bones.